In this class, we will look at all the different operators that are available in Java. There are different kinds of operators in Java, like arithmetic operators. We have shortcut arithmetic operators, the string concatenation operator, the relational operators, the logical operators, assignment operators, and other special operators like the ternary operator, question mark, colon, and so on. Let's quickly review the different kinds of arithmetic operators. Arithmetic operators do arithmetic operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and then there is a special operator which computes the remainder when a number is divided by another number. It's called as a percent operator. So the other shortcut arithmetic operators that Java provides are called as the plus plus and the minus minus. It can be applied after a variable or before a variable. If it is applied at the end of a variable, it's called as a postfix plus plus. If it is applied before, it is called as prefix plus plus. Similarly, we have the postfix minus minus and the prefix minus minus. Okay. So what this does is it increments the value of x by 1. The only difference between the postfix and the prefix is in the context of an assignment. So in the context of an assignment, when you say y equal to x plus plus, x is first assigned to y and then x is incremented by 1. Similarly, for y equal to plus plus x, x is first incremented and then it is assigned to y. So it's equivalent to two statements. So first increment x by 1 and then assign x to y. Similarly, the same is applicable for the minus minus operator as well. Then we have the string concatenation, where you can add or concatenate or join two strings. Okay, and when you concatenate a string with an integer, the integer gets converted to a string. That's what is happening here. If count is 8, then the message will get the value there are 8 cows. And in Java we also have the relational operators, where we can compare a left side with the right side. So in this case, if x is greater than y, then the whole expression is true. Similarly, you have greater than or equal to, which means x is greater than or equal to y, then less than y, less than or equal to y, exactly equal to y, and not x not equal to y. Okay, and then we have the logical operators in Java, which we have a logical AND, which is represented by ampersand ampersand, a logical OR, which is represented by two pipes, and we have the negation, which is represented by the bang sign or the not sign. So if x is true and y is true, only then x and y will evaluate to true. Whereas x or y will evaluate to true if either x or y is true. And not of x will evaluate to true if x is not true. Okay. And then we'll look at the assignment operators. Here the value of y gets assigned to x. When you say x plus equal to y, it means x is incremented by the value of y. So it's equivalent to x equal to x plus y. So this is just a shorthand notation for this. Similarly, we have minus equal to, star equal to, which means multiply the value of x by y and assign it to x. Similarly, slash equal to means divide x by y and assign that to x. And x percent equal to y means the remainder that is obtained after dividing x by y will be assigned to x. Okay, so there are different kinds of assignment operators. And then we have other operators like the precedence operator, where you change the precedence of operators. Precedence means which operators are evaluated first when they appear, when multiple operators appear on the same line or in the same expression. So when you don't have these parentheses here, and if you have just x plus y star z, it means The star is a multiplication operator. It has a higher precedence. So y will be multiplied by z and then the result is added to x. But if you want to change that order and you want to first add x to y and then multiply by z, then you need to change that precedence by enclosing the operation that you want to evaluate first within parentheses. Then in Java there is a special operator called the question mark colon. What it does is when you say z equal to b question mark x colon y, b is a boolean expression. If it evaluates to true, then x is used to assign it to z. If b evaluates to false, then y is used and assigned to x and assigned to z. And then you have the array index operator, which is the square brackets. So if you say 0, that means it's the first element of the array. If you say 3, it's the fourth element of the array. The array index always starts with 0. And then you have the dot operator, which is invoking a method or accessing an attribute of an object. And then you have a cast operator where you assign a type, which can be a primitive type or an object type. And then you have the new operator, which creates an object of a certain class. Here you are creating an object of the date class. And then you have the instance of operator, which checks whether an object is an instance of a certain class or not. Here you are checking whether O, the object O, is an instance of the string class or not. If it is an instance of the string class, it will return true, otherwise it will return false. So I was talking to you about operator precedence, which operators have the highest importance or which operators are evaluated first. That order is called as the operator precedence. So if you see here, the array index, the method invocation, and the typecast are always first. This is the typecast, this is the method invocation or accessing an attribute of an object, this is accessing an array element. They always have the highest precedence, followed by the plus plus, minus minus, the new operator, the typecast operator, and so on. And the third one is multiplication, division, and remainder, followed by addition and subtraction. So in the same line, if you have both multiplication and addition, the multiplication is always done before the addition. And if you want to change that, you use the precedence parenthesis to change the order of precedence. Now let's look at an example of how all these operators are being used. So I have an example program here called demo operators. So the first, let's run this program so that we can see the output and discuss the output. So when 5 is divided by 2, the quotient, if the quotient is of type int and the right hand side is also an int, you will get 2. So the output is 2. And if the remainder of dividing 5 by 2 will be 1. Since the left hand side is an int, so the output of this will also be an int, and that is 1. Okay. But let's say if one of the operators is explicitly cast to a float and the left hand side is a float, then in this case you will get 2.5 as the output. Okay. And if the left hand side is a float and the right hand side is integer, the integer gets converted to a float. This is called as implicit casting, where a value of a lower type can get automatically converted to a value of a higher type by the JVM. Float has 32 bits and int has 16 bits. So the value of this would have been 1, which is an integer 1, but the right side is a float, which is of a bigger type. So the 1 will get converted to 1.0, and that's what we see in the output. But that implicit conversion does not happen when you are going from a higher type to a lower type. So in this case, A and B are integers and C is a short. So if I uncomment this line here, you will get a compilation error which says a type mismatch cannot convert from int to short, because int is 16 bits and short is 8 bits. So you cannot go from a higher type to a lower type. If you want to do that, you need to do an explicit cast, which is being shown here. So a plus b is an int, but you are explicitly casting to a short, and hence you can assign it to a short type. So let's comment this guy out. So, and then in Java we have the special operators called as plus plus and minus minus, which can be postfix plus plus and prefix plus plus, or similarly you have the postfix minus minus and prefix minus minus. And you can see the example here. X is 5 and you say y equal to x plus plus. That means it's equivalent to two statements where x is the current value of x is assigned to y, and then x gets incremented by 1. So you'll see that y will become 5, that's the current value of x, and then x gets incremented by 1 and x becomes 6. But if you use it in the prefix context, what will happen is the a1 will get incremented first and then get assigned to b1. So a1 is incremented first and then it's assigned to b1. And you will see that b1 becomes 6 and a1 becomes 6. Similarly, when you append or concatenate, an integer to a string, the integer automatically gets converted to a string. So let's look at this example where we are adding 1 and 1. It gets added to the string called equals and then added to plus 1 and 1. So the order in which this evaluates is from left to right. So 1 plus 1 is 2 addition, adding 2 integers, so the result is 2. So the 2 will get added to the equal string followed by plus 1 plus 1. Since the integer 2 is being added to a string, the integer automatically gets converted to a string and it becomes a string 2, which gets added to equals and you get 2 equals. And now you're adding a string to an integer, so the integer 1 will get automatically converted to a string 1. And then these two get added up and you get 2 equals 1. And now that is being added to this 1, which will automatically get converted to a string because you're adding that 1 to a string. And finally you get 2 equals 1 1 in the output. In this case, on line 53, the string 1 gets added to 1, so it becomes 1 1 string, and that gets added to this 1 and it becomes 1 1 1, and then that is added to this equal string, and then this 1 and 1 automatically get converted to strings as well. And finally you get the output 1 1 1 equals 1 1. And then I'm showing you some examples of using the logical AND operator, which is represented by 2 ampersands, and I'm also showing you some relational operators like greater than or equal to, which means the left hand side is greater than or equal to the right hand side, and then I'm showing you the equals operator, which means the left hand side is exactly equal to the right hand side. In this case, if both the expression on the left side of ampersand and the expression on the right hand side of ampersand, if they both evaluate to true, then the whole expression becomes true. X is 5, which is greater than or equal to 5, so this evaluates to true. Similarly, y is 6, so both the expressions are true, and it will print xxs is greater than or equal to 5 and y is equal to 6. Similarly, I show you the logical OR operator, which is represented by 2 pipes. In this case, this whole expression will evaluate to true if both the left hand side of the OR and the right hand side, if either of the left hand side of OR or the right hand side of OR evaluate to true. Since xxx is 5, it's not greater than 6. But y is 6, which is less than 7. So that evaluates to true. So we get this output, xxx is greater than 6 or y is less than 7. And it is printing that because y is 6, which is less than 7. And in OR, just one of the conditions needs to be true. Then we have the new operator, which helps you to create an object of a certain class. So this now is an object of the date class, which gets the current date and time. And if it is added to a string, the JVM automatically invokes the toString method of the now object, and then you see the time as a string being printed out. And in Java you also have some shortcut operators, like shortcut assignment operators like plus equals, minus equals, divide equals, percent equals. So in this case what happens is, if ABC is 23, if you do plus equals to 5, that means ABC equal to ABC plus 5. So since ABC is 23, it gets added to 5 and ABC becomes 28. In this case the value of ABC is subtracted by 3, so 28 minus 3 is 25. And then here you're dividing that value of 25 by 5, so you get an output of 5. So ABC becomes 5 now. And then when you do a percent equals 2, 5% equals 2 is, the remainder is 1, and in the output you'll see remainder of 1. And in Java you also have what is called as a ternary operator, where you say A question mark B colon C. That means if A is true, use B, otherwise use C. So in this case 5 is greater than 3, yes, so that is true, so use 25, and that gets assigned to this value, and when you print that value you get the value of 25. Similarly here, is 5 less than 3? No, so you'll use Z and assign it to A. So the character A will print Z. And here I'm showing you an example of the instance of operator. I'm creating a variable S of type object and assigning a string to that object. In Java, every object inherits from, is basically belongs to an object class. So S here is an instance of string, so it evaluates to true and it prints that S is an instance of string. But is S an instance of date? No, so it will print the else statement which says S is not an instance of date. So this was a quick overview of all the different kinds of operators in Java, which you will use in most of your Java programs.